Hello and welcome once again everyone. Today I'm revisiting one of my favourite lines in World of Warships, British light cruisers, focusing in particular on HMS Leander. I've included a very strong suggested build, including the ship upgrades and captain skills, along with some links to a playlist on British cruisers after the main highlights, so make sure to check them out. Without further delay, let's jump straight into the action. Today's replay was sent in from one of our good friends from the well-known clan Omni, with special thanks to our brave captain in question, Wuta. This map is called North and it's standard battle mode. Standard battle mode can lend itself to more tactical maneuvers at times, in comparison to domination mode, where the vast majority of players tend to rush forward to the capture points. Our captain has spawned on the northeast and has decided to flank wide behind the islands. This isn't just a random choice made hoping for the best. Our captain, despite being the most forward advanced ship on this flank, is not located, being able to maintain this status of remaining neither located or detected, all the while using radiolocation to gauge the closest enemy's position will ensure the complete element of surprise in any coming engagement. Radio location, or RPF, is an incredibly powerful skill and massively underrated and underused by the majority of the player base. It's more commonly used by destroyer captains, in particular the more stealthy variants. But if you have ever had any experience with any kind of competitive World of Warships action, you will see cruiser captains often use this perk to great effect. RPF, however, is not just confined to competitive gameplay, as it is equally powerful in battles of the random variety. Our captain takes full advantage of the complete lack of enemy reconnaissance on this flank, and continues to advance using the great cover provided by these large islands, while additional scouting information is now being provided by the friendly carrier's torpedo planes. HMS Leander boasts a wide range of incredibly strong weapons in her arsenal, including the hallmark of the Royal Navy cruiser line, powerful armour-piercing shells. Combined with very good manoeuvrability, access to hydroacoustic search, and 8-kilometre torpedoes, Leander has all the tools required to shine in close to medium range combat, making her incredibly potent against enemy destroyers and cruisers. The enemy destroyer Caledon was briefly plane spotted and is our closest target. With the RPF indicator, our captain can keep its location closely monitored and launch his assault. The enemy Russian battleship Sinop is located on the opposite side of that island without any line of sight, leaving our captain free to push into the open and start engaging. Enemy Geda is spotted. He's still firing at our friendly ships to the north. He's caught completely by surprise. Our captain has activated his hydro and launched torps. Turns to avoid these incoming torpedoes. Continues to put fire on the enemy Geda. And our captain gets his first kill of the game. The enemy Geda never stood a chance being caught at such close range. Next target coming in is the enemy Aoba, Japanese cruiser. He is shooting HE for the moment. And here's where patience is very important. Instead of just instantly smoking up, our captain is waiting until the Aoba passes the island and is directly in line of sight of our destroyer to the north. Captain smokes up. The Aoba gets undetected for a brief second, which is enough to throw off our captain's aim, unfortunately. Enemy Aoba is fully angled, so our captain is aiming high for the superstructure And this is what you have to do with British armour-piercing shells against well-angled targets. Aim high for that superstructure. Enemy Aoba is turning broadside. That is a surefire sign. He is going to launch torpedoes, but he exposes his full broadside in the process. Triple citadel. Another double citadel to finish off the enemy Aoba. Our captain activates his repair party, which can heal back quite a bit of high explosive damage. The more attentive among you will have noticed the shrewd use of damage control party. Not just instantly activating when taking double fire damage, but waiting for the Aoba to go down, ensuring smooth transition from putting out the fires and healing back the max amount of damage without running any risk of taking a last gasp fire from the Aoba with damage con on potential cooldown. Having all these great consumables is one thing, but learning to time their usage well will go a long way in optimizing your performance in the Leander, and prove extremely useful as you progress further up the tiers. Practice makes perfect, so they say, and picking up these good habits early on will stand you in good stead and greatly increase your enjoyment of the Royal Navy cruiser line. Having pulled off an almost flawless surprise attack, removing a destroyer and cruiser from this flank, the way is clear to push in and put pressure on the enemy base. HMS Leander has all these great offensive weapons at her disposal, but I can't stress enough how important it is to remember that defensively Leander pays a huge price in terms of armour protection. One must be particularly cautious at all times in the presence of enemy battleships, in particular when facing up against higher tier BBs, like the torpedoes in this case. HMS Leander's citadel is particularly vulnerable due to the thin armour protection, and careless angling can lead to instant deletion even when being fired upon by German battleships notorious for their at times very lackluster dispersion. Sudden changes in speed and angling inwards towards your target is a move favoured by many more experienced players, which can mitigate a lot of incoming damage. But don't expect this to be your saviour move. Good players can anticipate this move, so planning your attacks and manoeuvres to coincide with smart usage of smokescreens can provide you with a huge tactical advantage and easily force even higher tiered opponents into full retreat. Take note of our captain's aiming here. He is constantly going for the more lightly armoured superstructure. When faced up against heavily armoured or angled targets, make the conscious decision to focus your fire on the enemy superstructure. The damage numbers might not seem substantial at first glance, but this tactic will allow you to do consistent damage, landing potentially 2 to 3k salvos every 6 to 7 seconds, which adds up very fast indeed. The enemy torpedo is now in full flight mode and extremely low health. Our captain decides to give chase despite having more than 30 seconds remaining on his smokescreen, because the torpedo is leaving the Leander's effective gun range. And while firing in the open increases the chance of incoming fire, the choice of removing a Tier 8 battleship from the enemy team is worth the risk. Our captain continues to push forward and has the support of the friendly Gneisenau and Aoba close by. It's very important not to let your guard down when playing Royal Navy cruisers, and not to lose situational awareness while trying to focus on finishing a target like this. British cruisers, when spotted, are virtually always targets of choice, so always be prepared for enemy fire to come in from everything within gun range. The enemy torpedo goes down for our captain's third kill of the game, but in the process has drawn the attention of an even more serious threat, posed by the extremely dangerous Tier 7 Russian battleship Sinop. Russian battleships have decreased dispersion at medium range, with large enough caliber guns capable of easily overmatching the Leander's armour, and our captain now finds himself in its effective kill zone. Again adjusting speed and turning sharply in to avoid the majority of the enemy's fire. Now is the moment to smoke up, while the synop is reloading. Simply just slowing down and smoking up while the enemy can still fire makes it much easier for your opponent to land a successful strike on target. The enemy Budyonny now makes an appearance, and this following sequence demonstrates perfectly the weaknesses of Leander to reliably land hits on target at longer ranges, especially on faster moving targets. Our captain has dropped some preemptive torps just in case that synop pushes out from behind that island. Reverts his focus to the Budyonny. Budyonny is quite a fast moving Russian cruiser. The Akatsuki is spotted. Our captain calls for his team to focus fire. Quickly open fire on the Akatsuki and lands a good solid hit. And the Akatsuki goes down with the second salvo. The synop has indeed pushed out slightly and is now visible on the side of that island. He is fully angled, so our captain is left with little option but to focus on his superstructure. Budyonny is attempting a wide flank and is still showing quite a lot of broadside, so our captain decides to angle fully in the smoke against the synop and continue to focus fire while he continues to show broadside. The Budyonny is quite swift and is at the effective end of our gun range. You can see having to take quite a bit of lead. Our supporting battleship, the Carlito, has been taken out by the synop. Captain decides to pull out of the capture point, and with the synop there on his flank, decides to go dark and stops firing to drop detection. Once again, Captain has slowed down, changed direction, and has dropped detection. Being constantly aware of the enemy's position and learning to position yourself with the option of getting undetected when outgunned or outnumbered is one of the cornerstones of solid cruiser gameplay, no matter what nation of cruiser one is attempting to master. Our captain gets the Confederate achievement, and the devastating power of the synop's guns are illustrated quite clearly as he devastates the friendly Aoba. Synop now is quite low, so our captain can continue to land hits on his superstructure, hopefully take him out as quickly as possible. Just get briefly undetected. He's spotted again. Captain decides to push out and make sure of this kill, as he is the only one able to spot the synop at the moment. Game is quite close at the moment. It's a 5-on-5 situation. Nice grouping on these shells. And our captain takes out the enemy synop and gets the Kraken Unleashed achievement in the process. Incoming shells from the enemy Budyonny, who's at long range. He is outside our effective gun range, so we get immediately undetected despite having just fired our guns at the synop. I've jumped ahead slightly as very little happens for a minute or so, while our captain now plays the waiting game, with the Budyonny forced to come in and attempt to stop the capping process. Using the torpedo indicator is a great way to get an idea of how fast and what course a target is following. And in the case of the Royal Navy cruisers, similar to the Royal Navy destroyers, Leander has the capability of single launching torpedoes, which can be especially useful against bow-in targets, in particular battleships. Enemy Budyonny now is approaching at full speed in a desperate attempt to prevent the base being captured. Our captain drops a spread of single launch torpedoes on his projected course. He is now detected. Enemy Richelieu joins the fray, and incoming dive bombers from the enemy carrier Furious, having used his full complement of smokescreens over the course of the battle. Our captain is now forced into a brawl in open water against multiple opponents. Our captain slows down once again, shots out on the enemy Richelieu. He manages to take out the Richelieu, but in the process of slowing down to avoid his shells, takes a triple fire from both the Budyonny and the Furious's dive bombers. He's forced to repair instantly, and we can see how incredibly vulnerable the Leander is when put under sustained fire. No sooner has our captain repaired the triple fire, his steering is knocked out and set on fire once again. He's forced now to hold this course. See, the torpedo tubes have been knocked out. He's still able to land quite decent shots onto the Budyonny. Good 2300 salvo. Budyonny is about to go down. Once again, another fire. Our captain gets his 7th kill of the game. Enemy Furious sends in rocket planes. Our captain is quite low now. He is holding off on his damage control, hopefully to avoid these rocket planes. Our captain put up a brave stand at the end, not quite able to survive the battle, however racking up an impressive 7 kills against multiple tier 8 opponents. Simply a great demonstration on how to play HMS Leander even when up tiered. Starting off, I always recommend using premium consumables. In combination with the Superintendent Captain skill, you will get 4 charges of Repair Parity, Hydroacoustic Search and Smoke Generator, with reduced cooldown times which can greatly increase your survivability and effectiveness in combat. Leander gets 4 ship upgrades, starting off with Main Armament Mod 1, Damage Control Mod 1, Aiming Systems Mod 1, and finally Steering Gears Mod 2. On to the Captain skills. Being middle tier, it's unlikely you will have accumulated enough XP to have a fully trained captain at this point, so I highly suggest going with Preventive Maintenance, Adrenaline Rush, Superintendent, and Concealment Expert for your first 10 points. There are a lot of valid options for your final 9 points. A very strong balance will include Priority Target, Last Stand, then Jack of all trades, and finally Radio Location, or RPF, to complete your 19-point captain. Let's see what this build will mean for the ship's final stats. For survivability, we get 28,700 hit points, further enhanced by 4 Repair Party consumables. Main artillery consists of 4 dual-mounted 152mm turrets, with 13.2 kilometers in range, equally arranged 2 fore and 2 aft, with a reload speed of 7.5 seconds. Leander gets 2 X4 torpedo launchers, 1 each port and starboard sides, with 8 kilometers in range and a speed of 61 knots, with a reload time of 96 seconds. Leander gets an AA defense rating of 36, with its long-range guns reaching out to 5.8 kilometers. For maneuverability, Leander gets a max base speed of 32.5 knots, a turning circle of 640 meters, and a rudder shift time of 6.3 seconds. Finally, Leander has a concealment rating of 76, meaning you will be surface detected at 9 kilometers and by aircraft at 5.8 kilometers.